The boy from a small farming village became Jamaica's longest-serving prime minister, but nobody expected what he would do after 14 years in power. Jamaica's most powerful leader for nearly a decade and a half walked away from the highest office in the land on a quiet January day in 2006. Percival James Patterson, known to everyone simply as PJ, closed the door on an extraordinary political career that had spanned over for decades. But his story begins far from the corridors of power, in a humble village where dreams seemed impossible and poverty was the only reality most people knew. Born on April 10, 1935, in the rural parish of Hanover, PJ came into a world where opportunities were scarce, and the future looked uncertain for most Jamaican children. His father, Henry Patterson, worked the land as a farmer, waking before sunrise every day to coax crops from the soil. His mother, Ina James, dedicated her life to teaching young children at the local primary school, planting seeds of knowledge in young minds with the same care her husband planted his crops. They were not wealthy people. They did not have connections to the political elite or business moguls. What they had was determination, dignity, and an unshakable belief that education could change their son's life forever. Young PJ attended Somerton Primary School in St. James, where his mother's influence and his own sharp mind quickly set him apart from other students. Teachers noticed something special about this quiet boy who absorbed information like a sponge and asked questions that showed he was thinking far beyond his years. When he graduated from primary school, he earned a spot at Calabar High School, one of Jamaica's most respected institutions. In 1953, he walked out of Calabar with more than just a diploma. He had won the prestigious Purcell Trust Scholarship, a prize that would open doors he had only dreamed about as a child. Watching his father work the fields, the scholarship took him to the University College of the West Indies between 1954 and 1958, where he pursued a Bachelor of Arts degree with honors in English. University life exposed PJ to new ideas, political debates, and a world beyond the small village where he was raised. He excelled in his studies, but more importantly, he began to understand how politics could transform a nation. Jamaica was on the cusp of independence, and young minds like his were grappling with what it meant to build a new country. He devoured books on political theory, participated in heated discussions about Jamaica's future, and slowly began to see a path for himself in public service. But PJ was not satisfied with just one degree. In 1963, he traveled to London to study law at the prestigious London School of Economics. This was not an easy journey for a young man from rural Jamaica. London was cold, expensive, and far from home. Yet PJ thrived in this challenging environment. He earned his Bachelor of Laws degree and received the Leverhulme Scholarship along with the Sir Hughes Perry Prize for Excellence in the Law of Contracts. These were not participation trophies. These were awards given to the brightest legal minds in one of the world's top universities. That same year, he was called to the bar at Middle Temple, becoming a qualified barrister ready to practice law. When PJ returned to Jamaica in 1963, he could have chosen a comfortable life as a successful lawyer, making good money defending wealthy clients and living in Kingston's upscale neighborhoods. Many of his classmates did exactly that. But PJ had different plans. A man named Oat Fairclough, a member of the People's National Party, approached him with an invitation to meet Norman Manley, one of Jamaica's founding fathers and a towering figure in Caribbean politics. That meeting changed everything. Norman Manley saw in this young lawyer from Hanover the qualities that make great leaders: intelligence, humility, dedication, and a genuine concern for ordinary people. PJ joined the People's National Party and began combining his law practice with political activism. He was not interested in politics for personal glory or wealth. He believed deeply that government could improve people's lives, that policy decisions made in Kingston could change the fortunes of families struggling in rural parishes like the one where he grew up. His early years in politics were spent learning, listening, and building relationships. He was appointed as a senator and became the leader of opposition business, roles that taught him how Parliament worked and how to navigate the complex world of political negotiations. In 1970, PJ won his first seat in Parliament, representing Westmoreland South Eastern. This constituency became his political home, and he served these people with unwavering dedication for decades. The people of Westmoreland did not just vote for PJ because he was educated or eloquent. They voted for him because he never forgot where he came from. because he listened to their problems, and because he delivered results. He walked their streets, attended their churches, celebrated their joys, and mourned their losses. This was not political theater. This was genuine connection. His rise through the ranks was steady and impressive. In 1972, he became Minister of Industry, Trade, and Tourism, taking on the challenge of developing Jamaica's economic sectors. He proved himself capable and reliable, someone who could handle complex portfolios and deliver results. By 1978, he had risen to become Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, the second most powerful position in government. In this role, PJ represented Jamaica on the world stage, negotiating trade agreements and building relationships with leaders across the Caribbean, Africa, Europe, and beyond. The 1980 seconds were difficult years for PJ and the People's National Party. They lost power and spent years in opposition, watching from the sidelines as others governed. But PJ used this time wisely. He did not become bitter or disengaged. Instead, he prepared himself for the moment when his country would call on him again. He studied global economic trends, maintained his constituency work, and positioned himself as a steady, reliable voice within his party. That moment came in 1992 when P.J. Patterson became Jamaica's sixth Prime Minister. He was 57 years old, with decades of political experience behind him. But many doubted whether he could lead the party to victory in the next election. Jamaica's political culture was rough and confrontational, and PJ's quiet, contemplative style seemed out of place in an era of aggressive political combat. Critics called him too soft, too intellectual, too reserved. They underestimated him completely. In 1993, PJ led the People's National Party to a crushing electoral victory, winning 52 of 60 parliamentary seats. It was a landslide that shocked political analysts and silenced his critics. But PJ was just getting started. In 1997, he did something that had never been done before in Jamaica's modern political history. He broke the so-called third-term barrier, leading his party to another victory and winning 50 of 60 seats. Political parties in Jamaica had never won 3 consecutive elections. The pattern had always been 2 terms maximum before voters threw them out. PJ changed that pattern through careful governance, strategic vision, and maintaining the trust of the Jamaican people. During his 14 years as Prime Minister, PJ transformed Jamaica in ways that are still visible today. He became known as Mr. Infrastructure because of his focus on building the physical framework the country needed for economic growth. Under his leadership, Jamaica's highways were modernized, airports were expanded and upgraded, and seaports were transformed into modern facilities that could handle increased trade. These were not vanity projects. These were strategic investments that created jobs, facilitated business, and connected communities across the island. But PJ's proudest achievement was not measured in concrete and steel. It was measured in the lives of ordinary Jamaicans who climbed out of poverty during his tenure. When he took office in 1992, poverty affected 44% of the population. Nearly half of all Jamaicans were struggling to meet their basic needs. By the time he left office in 2006, that number had dropped to 14.8%. He had reduced poverty by 70%, lifting hundreds of thousands of Jamaicans into better lives. Families who had struggled to feed their children could now send them to school with lunch money. Communities that had lacked basic services received water, electricity, and health clinics. This was not accidental. This was the result of deliberate policies, careful planning, and sustained effort over 14 years. On the international stage, PJ became one of the Caribbean's most respected voices. He was a key negotiator in the LAM Convention, which governed trade relationships between African, Caribbean, and Pacific countries, and the European Union. His advocacy for small island nations was so effective that the European Union honored him by naming a room in their Brussels headquarters the Patterson-Ramphal Room. This was an extraordinary recognition for a leader from a small island nation. He also became a member of the Club of Madrid, an exclusive organization of more than 100 former presidents and prime ministers who worked together on issues of global governance and democracy. PJ understood that sports could unite a nation and create pride in ways that politics alone never could. He was instrumental in helping Jamaica's national football team qualify for the 1998 World Cup Finals, a historic achievement that brought joy to millions of Jamaicans. The image of the Reggae Boys competing on football's biggest stage showed the world that Jamaica was more than just a tourist destination. It was a nation of competitors, dreamers, and achievers. Despite his power and position, PJ maintained a modest lifestyle that stood in sharp contrast to many political leaders around the world. He did not accumulate vast wealth or live in ostentatious luxury. He was known for his simple tastes and preference for quiet evenings at home rather than flashy public appearances. When he turned 90 years old in April 2025, he chose to celebrate as quiet a day as possible at his home in St. Andrew, avoiding the circus of elaborate birthday celebrations that many politicians would have demanded. One of PJ's most famous sayings was "Silence cannot be misquoted," a phrase that captured his approach to politics and life. In a world where politicians compete to be the loudest voice in the room, PJ understood the power of listening, thinking before speaking, and choosing words carefully. This was not weakness. This was strategic brilliance. His political opponents often attacked him, expecting him to respond with anger or counterattacks. Instead, he remained calm, focused on governing, and let his results speak louder than any insults he could have hurled back. His magnanimity toward political rivals was legendary. When Portia Simpson Miller challenged him for party leadership, PJ conducted a campaign that was respectful and focused on issues rather than personal attacks. After the contest, he appointed her as a senior member of his administration, recognizing her talents and giving her opportunities to grow into the leader who would eventually succeed him. This kind of grace is rare in politics anywhere in the world. PJ was married to Shirley Field Ridley from 1960 to 1982, and they had two children together, Sharon and Richard. Like many political families, the demands of public life put strain on personal relationships. But PJ maintained his role as a father and never allowed political ambition to completely eclipse his family responsibilities. On January 30, 2006, after 14 years as Prime Minister and over 4 decades in politics, PJ Patterson retired from frontline politics. He was 70 years old, and unlike many leaders who cling to power until they are forced out, PJ chose to leave on his own terms. He handed over leadership to Portia Simpson Miller, who became Jamaica's first female prime minister, and PJ faded from the daily headlines that had followed him for so long. But retirement for PJ did not mean disappearing from public life entirely. In March 2006, just weeks after leaving office, he became statesman in residence at the PJ Patterson Institute for Africa-Caribbean Advocacy at the University of the West Indies Mona campus. This institute focuses on strengthening ties between the Caribbean and Africa, a cause that had been close to PJ's heart throughout his career. He also founded Heist Consults, an international consulting firm that allowed him to share his decades of experience with governments and organizations around the world. His expertise was still in demand. In February 2010, he was appointed as CARICOM's special representative on Haiti after that nation was devastated by a catastrophic earthquake. He also chaired the Governance Committee on West Indies Cricket, producing a report in October 2007 that addressed serious problems in how Caribbean cricket was managed. Additionally, he established the PJ Patterson Endowment